Hi, welcome to a new video, and in this one I'm going to run through a job lot of cameras that I bought. So eBay job lot of cameras popped up, 6 cameras for £18, and it was kind of like 6 cameras, £18. Yeah, that's got to be worth a quick look. Now, I did know roughly what some of the cameras were when I bought them, but not all of them. There was photographs, they weren't the most brilliant photographs on earth, and there was some rough descriptions of some of them, and some of them were fairly identifiable, and I thought it was worth the £18 for them. Now, one of the things that I do just want to talk about before I go through the cameras is to say, if you are thinking about doing this, if you're thinking about either buying or bidding on a job lot of cameras on eBay or any other marketplace, be aware of what you're getting into. The reason I say that is in almost all circumstances, these are going to be untested cameras sold as either for parts or not working or untested. So any money that you drop into them, you have to effectively be willing to write off completely. Okay, you have to. And what I do is I start with the assumption that absolutely none of them are going to be worth anything. They're not going to be working, and I'm just going to have some paperweights to put on a shelf. Not all of the cameras on the shelves behind me work. Most of the ones you can see do, but there's another shelf above that of stuff that it looks interesting, but it doesn't necessarily work for one reason or another. Now, the seller in the lot that I bought was quite clear that these were completely untested, and they were also quite clear that one of them didn't have a battery with it, so had definitely not been tested and would need a battery. It was an interesting lot because basically what we had was 3 film cameras and 3 digital cameras, so an unusual mix. No SLRs, DSLRs or anything like that in there. So quite a wide range of ages as well. So let's start with our first camera. So our first camera is a Kodak Instamatic 200. So these were manufactured between, I think, about 1964 and 1968. They take 126 film, which is no longer available. It was kind of a pre-packaged film cartridge that drops in the back there, and if you look carefully, let me just push it right up to the camera, you might be able to see the sheer amount of corrosion that's going on with this particular camera. And the outside also has some corrosion as well. This is not what we could call a good condition camera. It doesn't work or fire in any way. In fact, it's virtually seized solid. So this one not working at all. It's got a 41mm f7.1 lens on it, but these were basically cheap and cheerful, easy to use cameras of their day, the 60s. So yeah, this one doesn't work, so that's 1 down, 5 to go, and not working. Looks alright for a paperweight, I suppose. Next up, we've got the camera that was described as not having a battery with it, and that is a 2008, I believe these were launched, Sony Cybershot DSC-W115 to give it its full name. There was also a 110, the only difference between them is the 5's in black and the 0 is in silver. Now, these 7.62 megapixel CCD sensor cameras, and if you've watched the channel you'll know I have a bit of a soft spot for a CCD sensor. I think they give some quite interesting colours on there. This is in really good condition, nicely built. As I say, didn't have a battery, so I had to buy a couple of spare batteries and charger off of Amazon for £15 before I knew whether that was going to get this working. So if you do the maths there, my total spend has gone from £18 up to £33 now, so £33 I had invested. The good news is this works perfectly. Works really, really well. Screen comes on, zoom functions. There's a nice little green glowy power button when it's switched on as well. So yeah, I think the equivalent focal range and focal length on these is 32 to 122 millimeters. It's quite fast at the wide end with the Carl Zeiss Vario Tessar lens on there is a 2.8 to 5.3, so a decent little camera in that regard. And to my surprise, when I got it and had a look in the battery compartment, it did have a memory card on there. Let's see if we can get that in focus. It is one of the Sony proprietary Memory Stick Pro Duos, and one of those will set you back about £15 if you were to buy it. So works perfectly well. I will pop up some photographs on the screen so you can have a look at what it's like. I think the end results aren't too bad. So yeah, not too bad as far as the image quality goes. It's a decent little camera. These I've seen retailing for about £60 to £65 in good condition, and this is in really good condition. Add in the 15 quid that the memory cards go for, and we've got what there, about £75–80. I've got no intention of trying to make money off of this job lot. Basically all that means is for my £33 outlay, basically this one working alone repays that, so I'm reasonably happy with that. It's a interesting little CCD sensor camera, so I want to go on the shelf and wheel out to shoot if I feel like it. And being perfectly honest, with the current craze for digicams of this kind of era, the 2000s, and as I say, this one came out in 2008, it's got a little bit of cachet in that regard. So what do we have next? Well, what we've got next is one of the older ones. 1959 this comes from, and we have a Halina 35X. Now, the Halina 35X with, in this case, a 45mm f3.5 lens is a 35mm film camera. It's styled to look like a rangefinder. It's not a rangefinder, it's a simple viewfinder camera. It's actually incredibly robust for its size. These things weigh about ½ kilo and it's really tiny, so it feels hefty in the hand. It does have a slide-off back rather than a hinged back, which always makes loading film a little bit fun. I haven't shot anything with this as of yet, but I am going to stick a roll of 35mm film through it because it is... Ooh, sorry, you have to cock the shutter. Working absolutely fine, and as I say, I have checked the shutter. It appears to be running at roughly correct speeds, so will be an interesting one to play out. There's a sign of times gone by on the bottom. It's stamped Empire made. They were actually made in Hong Kong. Empire's a silly concept, so there we go. But the Halina 35X, one of the reasons why I want to whack a roll of film through this and see what it's like is these have quite a polarising following on the net. Some people say, yeah, actually they're perfectly good and there's nothing wrong with them, and other people basically say the only thing they're good for is beating muggers with. I can certainly see it being capable of doing the latter, but I want to see whether you can actually take any decent shots with it or not. So that's our third camera, a Halina 35X, and for those keeping score, we are now 2 working, 1 broken. Let's see how things progress. So our next offering, again a bit of a vintage one, and this is a Dacora Dignar 120. So these were produced from about 1956. It's a German manufactured 120 roll film camera, as you can see there. and it has a collapsible lens on it, so you twist and the lens pops out. It's a 75mm f4.5, which is roughly the equivalent of a 50mm on 35mm format, and it doesn't work at all. This thing is completely and utterly unworking. It's in very, very poor condition, extremely rough. There's a fair amount of corrosion and mess inside, and I think the shutter mechanism is basically just gone, and it's really, really, really not worth anything. But I actually quite liked the look of it, even if it is in tatty condition, but it would have been nice to have it working. I've got a soft spot for 120 roll film compacts of this kind of era, and I do need to get some more because I do like them. So there we go. Unfortunately, the Dacora not working. That's two each now, so we've got two cameras left to have a look at, and they are both Fuji's, and they are both bridge cameras from very different times in Fuji's history and production run of bridge cameras. Our first one is a Fuji Finepix S304. So this is actually very early in the digital camera lifespan. 2003 these came out. This is running a 3.2 megapixel CCD sensor, so absolutely tiny. It's got a 38 to 228 millimeter equivalent lens on there, and it's an f2.8 on there to f2.8 to 3, so it's actually fairly fast on the wide end. Runs off of AA batteries, which is nice, so no rechargeables to worry about. It is a bit tatty, but it works, and it works perfectly well. It ergonomically is quite horrible, I've got to say. I really don't like it from an ergonomics point of view. The on-off switch you may have noticed there is actually on the front of the camera where the shutter is, and that's where you'd normally expect in most cameras to find the zoom. So I've switched it off, playing around with it a couple of times. The zoom is in fact part of a four-way rocker switch on the back here, with a couple of options just there. It's got a fully programmable mode, so auto mode on there. It does shoot video. I really haven't tried it. And it's got an EVF, electronic viewfinder, as well as an LCD, and you can switch between those two using a little button there. Now, as you can imagine, being 3.2 megapixels, the S304 produces some very small resolution, very, very, very poor quality images, but with the wonder of modern technology and software, we can actually get some passable results out of these. So let's take a quick look at a few shots I grabbed with this, just messing around with it. And as you can see, they're not going to win you any awards, but they're not too bad in all honesty. Now, these have been up-resed. I use Topaz Photo AI. I use Topaz Photo AI for that, and they've been up-resed roughly about 2 times in most cases. And, you know, if you're just posting on social media, actually they're not that bad. So, yeah, the small sensor, the 3.2 megapixels producing small images, and the fact that it only has one ISO, 100 ISO only on this, but it still works. So interestingly, I'll hold this up to the mic, I don't know if you can hear it. There is a bit of plastic somewhere in there rattling around, but it doesn't appear to stop it working. So actually remarkably tough little thing. It really is ugly, but it takes photos. These seem to be running for around about £25 on eBay at the present moment, which is quite surprising, being perfectly honest with you. But I think that's off the back of the Digicam craze that's going on a bit at the moment. One thing to be aware of these is it does take the old style. Oh, sorry, there we go. Go and focus on that XD cards. So these are not that easily available. I happen to have one hanging around for an old Olympus stylus that I've got that also takes them. But yeah, there we go. So that is the Finepix S304. So we are now 3-2, working versus not working. Let's take a look at our last camera. So, our last offering, and I suppose it had to be too good to be true to be in an £18 job lot, but it is another, as I say, Fuji bridge camera. This is a Finepix S1730. These only came out in 2010, which, yes, maybe 13 years ago, but that's not that long ago when you consider, you know, this is an £18 job lot of cameras. 12 megapixel CCD sensor, 15 times optical zoom, dual image stabilization, and a really solid reputation for image quality. So again, running on AA batteries, and it powers on. But unfortunately, it then gives a turn this off and turn this back on message, which you cannot clear. And you may have noticed that the lens has not extended and is in fact now flashing a red error message whenever I try doing that and asking me to turn the camera back on and off again. Basically what's happened, and it is something that is relatively well known for these, is that the lens has become uncoupled from the mounting inside, and I would consider taking it apart and having a look at it, but unfortunately that's also pretty much impossible because, and you probably aren't going to be able to see it too well on here, I will just try, but you may be able to see there that the screws are, or some of the screws are corroded on here, and I've got a feeling, because there is some corrosion inside the battery compartment as well, that this has had possibly a trip into either a very damp living environment or possibly even some water at some point, and it's not done it any good, which is a real shame because this one working would arguably have beaten even the Sony. So unfortunately our last one, the Fuji, not working either. So that's 3 for 3. That's a 50% strike rate. That's actually not bad for an untested camera job lot. And the 3 that I have got working, as I say, this is the only one that I would really have liked to have given a go with, because they, as I say, they do have a good reputation for image quality, but unfortunately it's not to be. But the S304 Fuji bridge camera, interesting enough results out of that. The Sony, that's a solid little performer, being perfectly honest, and the Halina, I'm looking forward to shooting some 35mm on that and seeing how that stands up. So overall, for my £18, I actually think I came out quite well in that regard. So feel free in the comments below, let me know what you think, if you've ever bought a job lot of cameras, what your experience of it was, which one of these you think is worth it, which ones aren't, was I daft for doing this or not, because I might have done it again. A little bit more money, different lot of cameras, but we'll see what turns up with that lot. So there we go. If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button, and if you want to see more content of this sort, please do hit the subscribe button and the notification button to be informed when new videos get uploaded. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.